Hi guys, this is On Screen, Off Screen, a show where we like to talk about the stuff we've consumed, our media intake for the week, talk about how it made us feel, how it impacts our lives, sometimes even made it better or made us think in a different way. This week, Colin, you've got quite a bit more to talk about, so we're going to get you started with your first topic.
Okay, I'm going to do two of them because they're kind of combined. I've got 24 and 24 and the end of Next Level Chef. I like cooking shows, I just enjoy them. They're a fun pastime for me. And 24 and 24 is 24 challenges during 24 hours where these cooks have to do things that are progressively harder. Sometimes the gas will be turned off. Sometimes they have to cook with only one ingredient. Sometimes they have to team up. Sometimes they have to take down a team member. They have all sorts of challenges, and it is just a wildly fun show that I honestly think would be better in concept if the show came out in a Netflix style full show is just released. Because you're watching these characters for 24 hours that they are cooking, and if you could just watch that episode, I think it would be more compelling because where you get it broken up, you get a lot of the I'm so tired. I'm so tired. Oh, did you know that I'm so tired? We've been cooking for 20 hours and I'm so tired. Well, no shit, Sherlock. Of course you're tired. You've been cooking for 20 hours straight. I would be tired too. I'm pretty sure if you took a Navy SEAL, the Navy SEAL would call you little bitches, but it would absolutely still be tired because cooking for 24 hours on that level is not an easy thing to do. But the show is still wildly creative and very, very enjoyable. And I like the winner of this show because you're cooking for 24 hours and you bring in so many judges, feels a lot more balanced. Where a lot of other shows, you're like, well, the last episode, this guy did this thing wrong and this thing wrong and this thing wrong, but he won? What? And it doesn't make any kind of sense. And it happens with cooking shows all the time. The guy who won this show absolutely deserved it. He kills it from the beginning, and good for him. I do think it's funny the guy who is in second. We've watched on some other cooking shows, and he is coming second in 5 cooking shows in a row, and that just sucks. That sucks so bad. Coming second multiple different times, but the show's interesting, and I like the idea of maybe I'll cook that, maybe I'll cook that. That's fancy food that I've never thought of coming together in any way, shape, or form. I wouldn't have ever thought of coming together in any shape and form, but still just found it really enjoyable. Um, Next Level Chef. Have you seen this one at all, or the concept of it?
I don't like cooking shows.
I know you don't like cooking shows. Next Level Chef is interesting. There's a Netflix show that came out years and years ago. I can't remember what it's called, but the idea is that you have this platform that has food on it, and the platform slowly falls. And actually, I like the Netflix show. It's an interesting show. It's worth watching, but it's a allegory on society and how the people on the bottom only are left with the scraps, which I don't completely agree with, but is a compelling idea that they do well. They took that Netflix show and they applied it to a cooking show. And if you're on the top floor, you get the best stuff. You get the the prime rib, you get the lobster, you get the really really good ingredients, and they get to choose first. And then the second level, they get to choose what's left over from there, and the bottom level is just left with the scraps. And the bottom level, you have crappy cooking pans, and you have ovens that barely work, and the middle level's a little bit better, the top level's a little bit better. It's really cool to see these cooks who are used to these high end, really good kitchens having to get down, get humble, and cook with everything that they have in this bottom kitchen where they have ovens that sometimes don't work and they have gas grills that sometimes don't work and their pans look like they were beat up with a hammer first before they cook on them, and they cook these amazing meals. And a lot of times, season after season, some of the best meals come from this bottom kitchen where they have so few ingredients and they have so few ways of cooking, but they just reach inside themselves and they pull something out. They pull out a human spirit and they create something great. And it's part of the reason why I love this show as much as I do. If the gimmick doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. For me, the psychology aspect of these people being literally in the bottom but rising to the top is really satisfying, and I very much enjoy it. And you've got three different coaches, so you have more of a balanced opinion on who goes forward. The thing I don't like about this show is you do have three coaches that have three teams, and each one of the coaches is arguing for their team member to be the one that's able to go forward, because if they win the entire show, it's beneficial to them. So it makes it so it's a little bit unbalanced that way, but the gimmick of the show and the fighting with the human spirit is enough to really grab me in and make me want to root for the show, want to root for the people who are cooking. The last episode of this one was the most disappointing season to me. I was good with all three people that were cooking, but the very last episode, you cook a 3-course dinner basically, and you have your entree, or you have your appetizer, you have your entree, and then you have your like main course. And the other two that didn't win, it was like, oh, you made this little teeny mistake. You made this little teeny mistake. The guy who won, he gets to the last meal and he's like, this one's not your best and it's not great. These other two that didn't win, that they did a really good job, but you kind of dropped the ball a little bit, and he won the show, and I don't really understand why. And there's a lot of cooking shows where that happens, and it's frustrating because you want to know more. You're like, I wish that there was a VR setup with cooking shows where I was connected to the food and I could taste the food and be like, you're wrong. That other guy should have won. What are you doing? Stop it. But I just don't know enough to say that, you know?
Yeah. It's not just cooking shows, it's competition shows.
Yeah.
And, like, that really gets to me, too. The Voice comes to mind. They have their boxing matches, right? Where they sing one-on-one, and then the judges pick the winner. And there was quite literally one where they were like, well, dude, I'm sorry, person A, this was your worst performance of the show. Person B, this was your best performance of the show, and you absolutely did better than person A. But overall, person A has done better throughout the show, so person A wins. Because one bad performance shouldn't ruin their whole thing. And I'm sitting there like, then what is the boxing match even for?
Yeah, because you already know who you're going to push forward anyway.
Yeah, like, person B clearly did better. And the judges even directly said that. And you picked person A because historically they've done better. No, they messed up. They lost. They're out. And to me, that would be like getting to the NFL playoffs, having a giant upset game where the Cowboys beat the Kansas City, and then being like, well, Kansas City had the better record, so they're still going to go to the Super Bowl anyway. That's what it feels like to me. And I'm sitting there like, no, they lost. They lost. That performance, they lost. Their history doesn't matter. They lost. And
they lost.
So many cooking shows do it, but basically any competition show has these moments, and that's one of the reasons why I don't like them.
It's because it doesn't feel like it's actually a competition. It feels like it's a...
Yeah. Well, it's a competition. It's just like the judges let their human bias thing do it. And it's like this individual competition didn't really matter, you know? So you wasted my time with 45 minutes of all of this stuff, giving these critiques, just to be like, yes, person B was better, but we're going to let person 1 win because they did better before this performance of theirs. I was like, no, that's not how competitions work. That's not ethically correct. Like, could you imagine being sent home from one of these competitions, being told you did the better job?
But
in the
that other guy
competition
did
we're
better
actually
last
having.
round, so yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I
ridiculous.
would be like, no, I feel cheated. I didn't feel like I actually lost. I did
Yeah,
better. I should be moving forward.
this
That's
should be an
terrible.
upset right now,
Yeah,
where I was the underdog. Let's go. What are you
yeah.
doing?
Uh, so it is
Yeah,
unfortunate that that's how these shows work, and it's really unfortunate that the judges do that, and that just sucks.
yeah, that's something that I appreciate about British Bake Off, which I know you don't like that show either. But there have been multiple times where I've been like, this girl has been better the entire show. But that last one, she fumbled the ball, and the person who didn't fumble the ball actually won, which
Well,
is
interestingly,
was
I
not
don't
very
like the
deserved.
British Bake Off because it doesn't feel like enough of a competition. That's my criticism of it. But yeah, I mean, to say I don't like cooking shows, that's not entirely accurate. I have
Yeah.
gotten into them. I am actually very interested in Gordon Ramsay's new cooking show.
So I was going to talk about Gordon Ramsay after this, but what's the new one? Is this
He's going
the next
undercover
level
using
chef?
hidden cameras to basically criticize a bunch of restaurants and their cooking methods and everything.
That's cool.
Yeah,
So
I like that.
I think Gordon Ramsay gets way, way, way too much hate, and I was going to talk about that. I like pretty much all of Gordon Ramsay's shows that I've seen. I think they're all good. And he did something with
I
Next
don't
Level
like
Chef.
Hell's Kitchen.
I like Hell's Kitchen. Um, there's a kid who gets sent home probably like fifth, but the guy is working really hard. He takes instruction really well. Like he wants it. He's 22ish years old. He's got a wife and a kid, and he's just like fighting for a chance. And Gordon, who has a lot of restaurants, he has a lot of pull in the industry. He's like, I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna give you an opportunity. I'm gonna set you up with one of my restaurants, and I'm gonna talk to my head chef and see if we can fit a spot for you. And I've watched enough of his shows to see that he does this over and over and over again for people that show that they're willing to fight for something, people who are coachable. And when Gordon Ramsay needs to be an asshole to get somebody moving and get somebody in gear, he's an asshole. But when Gordon Ramsay can be kind, he's kind. And I think that that's a good boss. I think he's a good dude, and I think he gets way too much hate because he genuinely just wants people to succeed and perform. And I like Gordon Ramsay.
Disagree with that, but okay. I'm glad you do.
Okay.
Uh, I love how he treats kids.
Yeah, me too.
Everything I see with him treating kids, he treats them very well. And there are times that he treats people well.
Yeah.
But just because you treat somebody well sometimes doesn't mean you should be able to treat them like crap before that. And that's where I disagree with saying he's a good dude. I think he is overhated, but he does treat and actually abuse a lot of people.
I think he's very militaristic in the way that he acts, and like he demands a certain standard. And I don't think you get to a place where you have Michelin star restaurants like that
Personal
without
insults are not militaristic or
a certain standard. But
making somebody, it's belittling somebody and it's tearing them down. It's nothing more than that.
he used to do more of the belittling stuff. I don't really see that anymore. I still see him yell at people, but it's not like insulting the way you look or whatever. He's being like, this is just not up to the standard. What are you guys doing? What, like, he freaks out about that. You're gonna feed this food to those people? No, this doesn't count. Like that kind of thing. And
And he
I don't
slips
think
into
there's a problem with
criticizing
that.
them as a person. And
He's
I do think that there's
criticizing
a
their
problem
work
with that.
ethic and what they're doing, which
By attacking them as a person. Like, I've
But-
seen it in clips from his actual stuff
so I've watched like
where he talks about them
newer-
being from a place or their hairstyle or if
I've
they've
seen
got
that-
some dumb, if their brain works properly.
I've seen that with the old Hell's Kitchen. I still see the brain stuff sometimes. Like, what the hell did you do today? What are you thinking? What blah 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 blah. Can you think what are you talking about? This steak is rare. Have you ever cooked before? That kind of a thing. But I don't. It's fine. I don't really have a problem with that.
I do. It's not
Guy's got a
like
standard.
I'll take your word for it. He's gotten better, but I still don't think that that makes it okay, and I would not say that that makes him a good boss.
Okay.
Like
I
that
think
to me
he's
is the most ridiculous claim you've made.
really
Yeah. You
yelling
can
at.
hold a standard and you can have them live up to that. Criticizing and ridiculing them into that standard is not being a good boss.
I think demanding a higher result and being pissed off when you know that they're capable of it. Like most of the time when I see him yell in the newer shows, he's done the training with them. He's down to a smaller group. There's like 8 people left. He knows these people can cook. He's seen it before, and they're just dropping the ball. And he's like, "What the hell, guys? Get it together. What are you doing?" Kind of a thing, which I think is
Not a
honestly
good
fair.
boss. An employer should not be yelling at an employee.
You ever?
Ever.
Okay.
I agree with you. You should have high standards. You should hold people accountable for those high standards. But it is not a sign of a good boss when they are yelling at an employee. It makes an employee and another person defensive. It makes them feel targeted or anything like that. It's unacceptable. Yeah, you can be frustrated. You can express that frustration by saying, "Hey guys, I'm really frustrated," but you still have to treat them like an adult. Treating them small and like a kid because you have a higher rank than them, I do not find that acceptable anywhere for any reason.
I think there's times where you can be militaristic and have it be okay. And I think he does it pretty well. Now,
I think
there was a time
in
where
the
maybe he didn't.
military, when life and death is actually on the line, yeah. But unless
But
you have one of Joe Rogan's real jobs or whoever it was, I don't actually know if it was Joe Rogan.
I don't know
But
what you're talking about.
somebody famous said there's only 4 real jobs in the world and everybody else needs to chill. And it's like army, military, military, police officer, doctor, or engineer.
Okay. I don't know if that's Joe Rogan either. I don't know.
I don't
But
remember who exactly it was, but like, yeah, if you actually have life and death in your hands, and somebody screws up causing life, yeah, you need to be more forceful with that. But everybody else needs to calm down.
I think something is obviously working for him. He's created a lot of good things. And if you demand excellence, you'll get excellence and you'll have more excellent people. If you
Why does
live
demanding excellence have to raise your voice?
I don't think it has to, but I think there are
You
ways.
just said that makes him a good boss because he
I,
demands excellence.
so I was saying I don't think you have to raise your voice, but I do think that is a way of training and that is a way of leading. I don't necessarily think that a military person who yells is not a good leader. He's yelling. And are the drills that you're doing right now going to save your life later on? That's the idea, yes. But are the drills that you're doing right now saving anyone's life because you're running in South Carolina and you're running 20 miles and you did a push-up wrong so you get screamed at for 20 minutes? No, it's probably not. But it's all about an excellence and a standard. I don't necessarily think it's a bad idea to hold that standard. It's a different type of leadership, but I don't think that means it's a bad leadership style.
Again, we agree having high standards of excellence is good.
Yeah.
If you have a high bar, people will tend to achieve it.
Yeah.
Okay? But the way Gordon Ramsay goes about doing it is not good. And even in military, like you're talking about it being militaristic and good.
Yeah.
Look at all the best military leaders in history. And most of them, if not all of them, did not lead that way. Yes, they had high standards, but they were known for being somebody who fights for the soldiers, not somebody who fights with the soldiers.
But what about if one of the soldiers is felling the rest of the troop, rest of the company?
You inspire them, you build them up, you believe in them. You don't belittle them, you don't attack them, and you don't make them defensive and possibly worse.
There are some people that need to be broken down before they'll be lifted up.
That's what boot camp is for. That's what your training and initially is for. But either way, you're still not building a relationship by yelling at somebody the way he does.
Okay. See, I'm not a yelling boss either. That's not what I do. But I just think it's different kinds of leadership, and I don't think one is a bad kind of leadership.
I think it absolutely is.
And
I think
obviously,
unless it's
this
causing
guy
somebody else's life to be killed.
has how
yelling
many
at him
Michelin
is not-
stars does he have?
What does that matter?
I mean, that's a show of excellence. You're creating an excellent
That's his excellence.
environment.
But what about, we're talking about his leadership? His
I know.
Michelin stars speaks nothing towards his leadership.
I think it absolutely does. If you don't
No,
have
it
a great
doesn't.
leader, you don't create a excellent environment, and Michelin stars are a demonstration of excellence.
Except you can demand that and you can get that in the short term. It's nothing to
But
do with
he's
long term.
been doing it for years.
With different people.
I bet his people stick with him for a pretty long time.
I bet the ones that do are very benefited from it, and they're not people that he yells at and belittles.
I think he sorts through the people that he wants to keep and the ones that he wouldn't yell at by yelling at the people who are below his standard, unless they decide to ship up and become part of his standard.
I disagree with that, but that's fine, because
Okay.
basically that's how psychology works. People don't rise up by being belittled or broken down like that.
They rise up when you have those moments of kindness, which he is absolutely capable of doing.
Yeah, he is, and I do give him credit for that. I agree. Like he has done really good things. I'm just saying that doesn't erase the bad things that he does or has done.
I think it's a good cop, bad cop type of situation, and he's breaking them down, and then he's personally lifting them up, which maybe
No, he's not. He's cherry picking a few to pick up. Right? Let's
breaking
say
down
he
the rest.
picks up one good person and builds up one good person per show that he does. And let's say he's done 30 shows. That's 30 people he has helped and he's made better.
Okay.
Of those shows, how many did he tear and make worse and make them feel bad, possibly even quit, who could have done something great otherwise? Well, there's, initially like 30 people who join in, so 30 people at 30 shows minus the 30 that he picked out. Oh, well, now you're talking about hundreds of people that he has made worse. Right? And that's not to talk about the negative effects that could have outside of that.
But at the same time, like if we're talking military types, you get broken down and the few of them get through. Navy SEALs, most people flunk out, but they're getting screamed at. They're getting pushed really, really hard. It's very militaristic. But the few people that do push through become stronger than ever, and they become Navy SEALs. Badasses on the planet.
I think you're cherry picking a very specific scenario, and one that I also think that you're misrepresenting, because in that situation where they're getting to the point where they're actually doing the tryout for military,
Yeah.
is they are being pushed, not belittled, and that is a very distinct, important difference to me.
I'm taking this from movies. And in movies, it looks like they're getting belittled pretty much consistently.
No, it's all about the job itself. They say things like, "Are you gonna quit? Are you a quitter?"
I mean, I'm talking like um, the Sniper Show with Bradley Cooper.
Okay.
He's like, "You fat old
American
man, you
Sniper.
fat old man. Can you keep doing this, you fat old man?" And he's literally breaking fun of him as a person.
In a where they've built up that rapport already existing. And two, that's very, again, he's pushing the person that he knows how to push that person and not belittling them for stuff in a different way. Like, that is a very different thing. Pushing somebody in a military situation versus belittling or attacking personally somebody else, right? Like, if you came in and you pushed me based on my job performance in my current job,
Mm-hmm.
and you said, "You're not living up to this standard, you're not doing good enough," right? I'm going to be defensive, and that's going to suck to go through. Like, that is not how you manage me, fully admit it. But you start attacking me personally and my life choices and the way I look and the way I smell. Now you're triggering my anxiety and my personal depression. Something that Gordon Ramsay does not have the knowledge of or the rapport with a person to know that effect.
Why do you think that the military officer that just met this guy a couple days ago has that?
Because they all know that. When you get into the Navy SEAL training, they've got a file on you and everything you went through and how you responded to those things and a million reports, and they talk to your previous commanding officers. Like, to get into it, they know who you are and what you've gone through and what your responses to it were and how you've handled situations.
Okay.
You don't just like, "Hey, I've been a Marine for 3 years, I'm going to apply to Navy SEAL training."
It's a lot.
And they say, "Okay." No, it's like, no, they talk to your previous commanding officer. They get in-person recommendations. They do references. They do this, that, the other, right? So they've done that. And the Navy SEALs have done that. And they've gone through that. And they've gone through boot camp. And they are understanding of the situation. And they're putting themselves into it. And they know that they're going to be pushed. And they know that they're going to be told that they're going to quit. And they know that they're going to be told, push faster, swim faster. You're not good enough. You're not doing enough, right? That's very different than
on the other side
is.
At the very beginning of Gordon Ramsay's show, he doesn't have the reputation, so you're not expecting that. But at this point, when you go into the show, if you screw up, you are expecting that he's going to scream at you because you know, like, you've probably watched the show before. You've probably done your homework.
Yeah, I
right?
agree that they know that they're what they're getting into. I'm saying Gordon Ramsay doesn't know them personally.
He doesn't know them enough to be able to judge how to push them to create the most effective soldier.
Yeah.
It's fair enough. It's a fair point.
So, like, I agree with you. He is overhated. He does a lot more good than I have just, made it out to be.
Yeah.
My opposition is to you saying he's a good boss because A, he's not in the military. He's a chef and a TV personality. He's doing it to create drama and doesn't care about the effects it has on his quote-unquote employees. And I don't think a boss should ever be yelling at their employees, even if it is just for show. I just don't think that's a good boss. I think that his mentality of, here's my standard, measure up to it or get out. And occasionally he does find somebody who falls short of the line but shows that they are willing to change and work on it and they're coachable people. Yeah. I think that's an important thing. He can narrow that down sometimes. Sure, he deserves credit for that, absolutely. But, saying he's a good boss, that is my opposition. I don't think he's a good boss. I would not want to work for him in any of those environments, and I wouldn't want to work for anybody who treats me the way he treats his employees.
Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough. Anyway, that is my first two topics. I was not thinking that was going to get that deep at all. But I'm glad we went into that. That was cool.
Yeah. Psychology of being a leader, being a boss. You and I are both leaders, both bosses. I really hope you're not yelling at your employees. I hope you're holding them to a high standard. And that's a good thing.
I left them up, but hold them up to a good standard. Anyway, what do we got? What do you got next time?
All right. So my topic is the second book in the Aragon series, Eldest.
Sure.
I think you're overly negative towards this book.
I probably am.
I think that the cultures and traditions and the interactions between the elves and the dwarves is actually the most compelling part about this book.
Interesting.
However, this book still sucks. It's doing the second book thing where it's trying to world build and establish the rules for which we have to follow with our characters. So they're talking a lot about how the magic system works, how their cultures intertwine, how they work together, all this kind of stuff, right? Except it doesn't make sense.
I don't remember it. Tell us why it doesn't make sense.
So, like, for example, in the first book, Grom or Born or whoever is teaching him that, like, in order to magically attack somebody, you have to open up your mind and you have to speak the words. So you, on defense, have a chance to counter their magic.
Yeah.
Which is a stupid system. However, in the second book, they're like, yeah, anybody can scry anybody's mind for any reason whatsoever. And you have to be defensive all the time. And also, you don't have to say the words. And also, they can surprise you with magic. And you're just an idiot and everything you were told was wrong. But they use that explanation of like, but he was just trying to give you the necessary details to get started. And it's like, no, you very clearly just contradicted yourself. And like, they also established that like you can use magic to kill thousands of people with a single word. Okay, so why does anybody go to war for any reason? Because a magic user can just kill you all with a single word. Oh, well, they usually have other magic users who are putting up wards in defense. And, you know, so they counteract, and they usually end up doing magic against each other, trying to break through those barriers. And it's like, yeah, that's literally how I've been hearing it. And I'm like, okay, if you don't have a well thought out system, just leave it as kind of vague and let us deal with that. Because, like,
that's
I'm like 2/3 of the way through the second book. And all of it has been like, the first little part is really interesting. They're talking about the elves and the dwarves and the differences in culture and like why they have the relationship that they do have. And it's like, cool. All that is kind of well thought out. The author here put together the political dynamics actually pretty well. His magic system, however, is not thought out well. It's a total convoluted, like, intertwined thing that is either A, way too complex for me to understand, or B, is so complex you wouldn't question it when he just does things with it. And so that's the one I'm kind of leaning towards. Yeah. The second third of this book is all just establishing the magic system and how it all works and everything. And it just, either it's going way over my head and I just don't get it, or it's really not that well thought out and he's trying to put it all together as he's writing it and it's not really working, and that's kind of what I'm feeling like. However, he hasn't knocked Aragon unconscious yet, so he deserves credit for that. He did a travel sequence without knocking him unconscious. He deserves credit for that. He's building his and Saphira's relationship, which I think he's doing a really good job with. He's building the relationship between Aragon and the elf chick, that deserves credit as well. Aragon is actually a fleshed out character. All of the sequences with his cousin I'm really, really liking, and I'm excited to see those two worlds clash again. Specifically, his cousin finding out that Aragon's the Dragon Rider and all that kind of stuff. That's a very exciting piece that I'm looking forward to. If it wasn't for the cousin, I probably wouldn't still be listening to this book, because everything else is just not super, super great. So
the cousin is the reason that you'll go to the next book?
I don't know. I still got to finish this book. Like I said, I'm only 2/3 of the way through it.
Okay.
We're going to see. It's not as good as the first book, for sure. But it is a second book. So I'm giving it some leniency, because he does have to do some establishment and a lot of prepositions and establishing of stuff. And it's, yeah.
I
We'll see.
hope you like it better. I struggled with book 2 and 3. And I know a lot of people hate book 4 because there's some contradictory stuff there, but I like that one better than 2 and 3. But I honestly don't remember that much why, because I haven't read it since I was in like 4th grade.
Yeah. So far, we've established that you have to speak the words for them to work. Then you establish that you don't have to speak the words. And then you establish that wild magic can happen at any point in time, in any place, for any reason whatsoever.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So that's what I've learned so far. So, yeah.
Okay.
We'll see. I'm gonna continue listening to this book. I don't hate it. I do wish it was better. The first book did a really good job with establishing these characters in this world for me to be invested in it. I don't know. But in terms of like books I've read, this book is so far better than Well of Ascension that,
Really?
like, yeah. Because Well of Ascension sucks. That is a terrible, terrible book.
That book drags on like hell.
No, it is hell. It doesn't. It's not like hell. It is hell. That book is awful. Now, I am not a big Brandon Sanderson fan. I think most of the first book is utter crap too. But the ending is so good and it hypes you up so much that you're so excited to move on. And then you read Well of Ascension. And what a load of turd is that book.
Yeah.
I despise that book. That is my second least favorite book of all time.
I just feel like Well of Ascension largely wastes your time, which I don't really like, because there's like 5 things that are important to happen in that book, and most of them are at the very end.
I'll have to take your word for it.
That is also awesome, but that Well of Ascension's got a lot of parts that are really, really slow, really slow,
and pointless, and terrible, and awful, and make you want to claw your eyes out, because why are you still reading this garbage?
Fair enough.
This one's not that bad. It's not as bad.
Okay. I remember a lot of wasted time in the second and third book too, but I don't know. I don't have that much to say. I haven't read them in such a long time.
Yeah, I don't feel like it's wasted time. So, like, in Well of Ascension, you spend 3/5 of the book preparing for a battle that doesn't happen and nothing changes. Whereas in Eldest, it is convoluted and very complex or doesn't make any sense. But they're trying to establish, and they're trying to do it, right? You're still, like, trying to piece it together. And you're like, okay, so how does this work? How does it work? You know, how's Aragon doing? How's his cousin doing? How's Arya doing? Right? You still have these elements. Well of Ascension, you're sitting there like, oh my gosh, nothing has changed. Literally nothing. You are in the exact same place as you were 5 hours ago reading this awful, awful, awful book.
With the Well of Ascension, I'm okay with the side character stories in that book. It's Vin's story and her constantly complaining about Ellen and like, does Ellen love me? Am I good enough for Ellen? And it's a good third of that book is just her being in her head as she complains about whether or not the guy that she likes loves her and whether she's good enough for him or she's too bad of a person. And all of that full third of the book is not enjoyable at all. Maybe even half. Like, it's a lot of the book. The other stuff of the book, I actually enjoy. But
disagree.
That part of the book, no. That part of the book I do not like.
Literally the first three-fifths of the book is them preparing for this battle. So it's Vin complaining about not being good enough, but not wanting to talk about it because she needs to prepare for this battle. And Ellen complaining about everything and worrying about everything in this battle. And oh no, how are we going to deal with this?
And then Vin has this like weird dark crush thing with this weird dude who's stalking her. And then she goes and murders a whole tower versus of people. And
yeah,
it's all because she needs to protect Ellen because she needs to be worthy of him or whatever.
Yeah.
It's dumb.
Yeah, no, anyway, yeah, not the main point that we're talking about today, but yeah, that's just an awful, awful book. It is so boring. I cannot stand it.
Honestly, the third book is awesome. Straight up, it just is.
Yeah,
it's
people
awesome.
say that, but the first book isn't that awesome either, and people say the first book is
that
amazing.
I disagree with completely. I love the first book. I genuinely
love
the
first book is the same. It's 3/5 of them trying to establish and work on this grand plan.
Yeah. But I actually like the characters, and I didn't feel like I was stuck in somebody's head where they are complaining for.
But you are stuck in her same voice, and she is complaining throughout the entire thing. The entire time she's like, "What's the point in this? Why should I do this? Why isn't anybody telling me anything?" Like, literally, the first three, it's the same thing. It's like a lot of establishment, a lot of build up, a lot of all this stuff. The payoff, I think, is so good, it overshadows how bad the first part of that book is.
And the payoff of the third one is my favorite payoff in any book series of all, like, ever. Because the last quarter of that book blew my mind. But the first book, she is questioning herself because these surroundings are bigger than her and she doesn't know how to deal with it. But she's questioning and she's trying to figure out solutions. That is a very, very different thing than the second book where they are just whining about stuff and not trying to figure out any solutions, but just whining. Those are not the same thing.
But in the first one, she's whining too.
I don't feel like she was whining. I feel like she was trying to figure out how to be the person she needs to be. And that's different than just being like, I'm never going to be good enough.
That's literally what it is. It's her whining, and she spends like a ton of time whining. Like, go back and reread it. And like genuinely pay attention to the first part, and it's unbearable. It's so bad. I've
literally read this book 4 times. I love the first book.
And I
love it.
The latter half of it, I think, is just overshadowing how boring the first part is.
Okay, I'll reread it again because it's a great book, and I would absolutely love to read it again because the first one is awesome.
Okay, for you.
Guys watching, like, this was not on our topics at all. This is completely, but I'm curious what you think. There's a lot of people who Well of Ascension is their favorite. But I don't understand that.
I've never heard anybody say that ever.
I have. I've watched a lot of BookTube.
It's the lowest rated one.
I don't. Is it?
It's one of his lowest rated. It's one of the lowest rated of him as an author.
So I've watched multiple
Brandon Sanderson
BookTube type people, and there's a lot of people that say it's their favorite Mistborn book. I don't understand that. That makes no sense to me. But do I have a point? Is the first one more about challenges that she's trying to overcome in a world she doesn't completely understand? And the second one, she's just whining and being annoying? Or is she whining in both ones? Let me know.
No, you're absolutely right. when you phrase it
Okay.
that way. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. I'm saying the establishment, the beginning part of book one,
Yeah.
right? You introduce her, right? And she's this really sad girl who's poor and misses her mom. And then she
Has
kind of like
power she
figures
doesn't
out she
understand.
has powers and she's kind of figuring it out. And then there's this middle part where she doesn't understand what's going on. She's not really fully invested. She doesn't know if she wants to do it. But Kelsier is so hot, so she just is going along. She just loves it. And then Ellen is so hot. And oh my gosh, these two guys are just so freaking hot. Oh my gosh.
But she's learning
And
how
then
to
the
use her
ending is a
powers,
really good payoff.
and the training montage is great in that book.
The training
and
montage is like 2 pages.
And the fight where she's fighting the spoiled rich girl is awesome. Like, it's so good. That's not even the end of the book yet, and it's fantastic. That's like the middle of the book.
Okay. I just think it gives Brandon Sanderson as a whole gets way more credit than he deserves. That's what I think. But
agree with that too, especially after book 5 of the Waking of.
You just said especially.
Especially. I'm trying to change it. Especially.
Yeah,
Ugh.
that's why I called it out. No, it's just like, yeah. No,
I agree.
I've said my piece. Let's move on.
Yeah. Anyway.
What's your next topic?
Another book, actually. It's Repose, book 7 in the Narcotic Apocalypse series. Necrotic. I don't know why I said that wrong. Apocalypse series. And it is the ending of the series, which I appreciate. A lot of these lit RPGs go on forever and never have an end, which is a mistake for a lot of them. This one, he had a plan. He stuck to his plan. He wrote his plan. And it makes for a much better series overall. I think the ending is satisfying, which is not common. All of it tied together really well. It made sense. They did a good job using all of the powers they established before, and nothing felt like a MacGuffin. It felt like this actually was planned and this actually was used well. That doesn't happen very often. I give huge credit for that. This book series is a lot of fun. It's really enjoyable. Basically, you have the main character who's a gravedigger, and he comes across something that he's not supposed to. I think this is like the 1500s, 1400s, somewhere like that. And he wakes up, and it's modern day time, and all of a sudden there are zombies all over the place, and he realizes that he's a zombie, and he is the only zombie who has consciousness. So he's able to understand what he's doing, understand his motives, and he has to figure out a mystery of, what is this curse? How do I break the curse? Is there anyone else still alive from my past? The party that I was with, did any of them survive? And the story kind of unfolds from there. As a zombie, he can eat other zombies, or he can eat humans and be able to, in a very unique way, upgrade his powers. And they did a good job of having a system to be able to upgrade, understanding that system, and having that system feel satisfying so that you can be part of that progression fantasy and enjoy the progression. Like, he did a good job with that. It's extremely funny. Like, you figure out his name is Digby, and because he was a gravedigger, his name is Digby Graves, and he's a zombie. And there's a good joke about that. Like, he does a good job with it. The side characters are really enjoyable. The magic is well done. There is one other character from his past that is still around, and it's one of the main villains. They do a good job of establishing the villain. It is a little cartoony, but it's well done. And I'm really satisfied with the way that it ended. I'm really glad I took this ride. If I'd had to rate the books, I would say the first one's probably my favorite, then the 6th one, 2nd one, 7th one, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. But all of them are enjoyable, and if you like lit RPGs, this one's a different one. It doesn't have a lot of the aspects of lit RPG that I don't really enjoy. It's not overly shoving stats down your throat. It doesn't have the girls that for some reason are just absolutely in love with the main character when there's literally no reason that they should be. trope that a lot of lit RPG have. It's just an enjoyable story with good characters, a mission that you can get behind, and a world that's worth exploring.
Cool. What would you rate it on a scale of 1 to 10?
This book I would give a solid 8. The series as a whole, 8.2.
And where would it fall in your lit RPG rankings?
Dungeon Crawler is my favorite. Primal Hunter is number 2. New Era Online is number 3. And this probably is number 4.
Okay.
No, Completionist Chronicles, and then this.
Okay. And then how lit of an lit RPG would you say it is?
Not super. So when he collects body parts that he can use to adjust himself, because he's a zombie, he's able to do that. That's kind of the power progression. It will go through how much resources he has to be able to progress, but it's really all that it does, and it doesn't do it that often.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really not super intense.
In comparison to Dungeon Crawler Carl.
A little bit higher than Dungeon Crawler Carl. A little bit more, but he doesn't ever really go over a full stats page. It's just, I have some of these resources. Should I do the upgrade or should I not do the upgrade? These are what are available to me, and then it moves on. And it really doesn't readdress it until he has the ability to upgrade something again.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit easier to digest than some of these other ones then.
Yeah. It does have some of the lit RPG cartooniness, which I can understand not working for some people, but if you enjoy that kind of thing, if you enjoy anime type tropes as far as cartooniness goes, I think you'd enjoy this series. It's an enjoyable book series.
Alright. With that, let's go ahead and hit our last topic, our shared topic this week. One I'm pretty excited to talk about, honestly.
Okay.
Iron Man Armored Adventures is an animated, I don't even remember if it was Disney Channel or Cartoon Network show based on a teenaged Iron Man. What'd you think?
I didn't like it as much as I liked it when I was a kid. Rewatching it this time, I watched most of season 1 is what I got through. But I still really enjoyed it, and it has a 6.5 on IMDb, and I think it deserves more than that, to be honest. Is it a pretty basic Saturday morning cartoon? I think so, but it's a highly enjoyable Saturday morning cartoon where they treat all the characters well, everything's voiced well, the animation is solid enough. The action keeps you going, you're engaged with the story, you want to keep watching. It's just enjoyable. And it deserves, I would put it like a 7.2. Right around there. That's honestly what I would do.
Okay.
What did you think?
I love this show.
Okay.
I think it's so good. I think that it didn't gain popularity because it was more than a Monsters of the Week kind of cartoon show, like a lot of the other ones. So the target audience really couldn't grasp it. That's my current theory.
Interesting. All right.
But because it's more than just a Monster of the Week kind of show, as an adult, I'm getting way more into it.
Interesting. Because I remember being like an 8.5 kind of show, and I didn't like it as much as I did when I was 15-ish, when I first watched it.
When I was younger watching it, 14, 15, whatever, when it was coming out, I was like, I like this show, right? But it wasn't like a let me plan around this show or anything like that. It was like a when it's on, let's watch it. Okay. My first argument is what an awesome intro song it is.
The intro song is fantastic.
It is so good, and it's short. That's one of my favorite part about it is so many of these shows have such long intro songs that even though they're great, like I love the Attack on Titan intro songs, but they're so long, I skip them anyway.
Yep.
This one, it's short, it's to the point, and it's awesome. Okay? The element of him being a teenager, I think, is really good. So, if we compare it to the Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man, I think Robert Downey Jr. does a better job. And I like that they actually established the way that the power energy in his chest works a lot better.
Me too.
Like, I don't even think they show Tony with the power source in his chest until, like, the end of season 1. You know? So it's not as impactful that way. On the other side, the villain's capabilities make Iron Man's look less impressive. So, like, the premise of the show of him really wanting Iron Man's suit to steal it, why? All of these villains that you already have access to have suits that are cooler, if not better, than Tony's. Like, let's be honest, Whiplash is freaking awesome. Ghost? Are you kidding me? You want Tony's suit when you could take ghosts? Somebody who could phase through solid objects. That's what you're telling me? I don't believe it. But pro to Iron Man Armored Adventures, not just Monsters of the Week, but sometimes Monsters of the Week. They have establishing characters. Pepper in this show is way better than Pepper in the movies.
Pepper is really good.
Way better. Rhodey, way better. At least for me, like, Rhodey in the movie is kind of like this unsupportive friend to me, but kind of still cool. In this one, he's just an awesome friend, and I love it. I love his character in the show. It's a short, like, each episode's like 25 minutes, so it's super digestible. You've always got good, solid fights. I think the animation's really good. I love the different suits having purposes. So, like, in the movies, he just, like, upgrades his suit, so now it could do everything it did before.
I do like
And
that a
the
lot.
new thing. And in this one, he's like, I've got a black and yellow suit because it can go to space. And I've got a white suit because it's invulnerable to ice. And I've got a big, heavy suit. And I've got a, you know, and it gives you an excuse to see all these different colors, combinations, and suits from the comics. I absolutely love that. And then having them have that extra little purpose on top of it is great. Like, I liked the show as a kid. Didn't watch it for a very long time because it only ran for 2 seasons and wasn't a really big show for a lot of people. And is it the best show ever? No. It had a lot of really good competition, right? Like, would you rather watch Iron Man Armored Adventures or Star Wars The Clone Wars?
Clone Wars, absolutely.
Clone Wars, absolutely, most of the time. Right, there are some episodes that I think Iron Man Armored Adventures is better than, but the greater majority, right, of the show. But I think this show's super underrated.
I agree with that completely.
Like you said, it's got a 6 point whatever. I think it deserves
6.5.
over an 8.
Okay.
You know, somewhere between 8 and 9, I think is totally fair for just about anybody. Because I don't see anything in this show to dislike. Right? Any problems rewatching this show?
No.
Would you rewatch this show?
Enjoyable time. It would be like a while from now kind of a show for me.
Yeah,
it's not one I would
totally
instantly
fair.
put on, but yeah, I'd rewatch it.
Yeah. It's just enjoyable. Like I said, it's really quick. You know,
Just an enjoyable show.
within the last week, there's like 20-something episodes a season, and you were able to get through most of it. I was easily able to get through it, and we watched another series with 6, 7 episodes, whatever. And like, I think there's a lot to say about that. Yes, if they were longer episodes, it probably wouldn't be very good. But like I said, they're 20 minutes, and 1 minute is a theme song, and 3 minutes is credits. So, like,
Like 17 minutes or so.
It's 17 minutes. It's very compact. It's very digestible. And as an adult, there's enough of an overarching story that it keeps you actually compelled. Whereas, like, some of those other shows we used to watch, while I still love them, they're just monster of the week. No episode really impacts the next episode. And you can just enjoy any of the episodes individually. And this one's a little bit more than that.
I would be interested to watch some of my other superhero cartoons and see if I dropped as much on those as too. Because this was Batman, this one, the old Spider-Man, and Justice League were kind of my tops, with Justice League probably being my favorite of the animated.
Better than Batman the animated series?
Very close. It depends on the season. Wow. I love both of those.
Okay, let's watch
anyway.
Spider-Man this week.
The 90s Spider-Man?
Yeah.
All right.
Because I've never seen it.
The one that I think is probably going to fall off the most because I watched the first episode a little while ago.
Exactly.
But
it's not going to be as... I picked that one because it's not the most nostalgic to you.
Okay.
So you'll actually see if it's actually good.
Okay, yeah, let's do it. That's a good one. There's only like, I don't even know how many seasons of that show. We're not going to watch all of it. Let's see.
So what's it actually called?
Spider-Man, the animated series. It's 90s. Oh, there's only 65 episodes.
Not The Amazing Spider-Man? Or Spectacular Spider-Man?
No, I watched both of
the
those
animated
too.
Series?
But Spider-Man, the animated series from the 90s was the one that I was obsessed with as a kid. I had the DVDs, and I would watch them over and over and over again. Like, I loved the show when I was little kid.
All right. Well, anybody who's listening wants to join along, Spider-Man, the animated series, season 1 is how many episodes?
Season 1 is... Second... 13 episodes. So pretty short.
13 episodes. They're probably about 20-minute episodes. If you would like to join along with us this week and follow up with us next week when we discuss this show, feel free to do so. Like I said, Spider-Man the Animated Series, Season 1 on Disney+. Looks like that's the only one right now. But if you like, you can join on.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
All right, any last thoughts before
No, I think that's it for me, man.
All right. Thank you, anybody, for listening and or watching. Like, subscribe. Give us hints on what we should be watching or what you think about what we have to say. Thoughts on Well of Ascension. Is it the second worst book of all time? I think so. Join us for watching The Amazing Spider-Man. Not The Amazing Spider-Man, that's a different show. The Spider-Man animated series this next week. Thanks, everybody.
See you guys.